Okay, so Parshas Naso. Naso. Now, normally, the word Naso, what does Nasa mean normally?
Like a traveling.
Oh, no, that's with an ayin.
Oh, yeah. Oh, wow.
Do you want to have a cut? Can I have a cut? Nasa means, yeah, that's with an ayin, to travel. What is Nasa with a sin? That's with a samak and an ayin. Nasa with a sin and an aleph. What does it mean? I hear somebody say something?
Travel?
Did you say travel as well?
Well, Nasa is travel with
Yeah.
ayin.
So we said with a samach and ayin, it's travel. You're right. But with a sin and an aleph, it means actually to carry.
Yes.
It means to carry. But you see, it also means to lift up. And in this context, it actually means to count. Lift up the head when we talk about Naso as Rosh B'nai Gershon. The Hashem told Moshe that he has to count the sons of Bnei Gershon. You know this book, of course, we spoke about it last time, that Bamidbar is a book of Chumash HaPekudim. It is the book of countings. It is the book where, so everybody's counted here. And in this week's Parsha, we're emphasizing the counting of the Levium, yeah? And although even he did it already even in the last Parsha. But so to Naso, in fact, it's interesting because in Hebrew, you know what the word for marriage is? What is marriage in Hebrew? Good. Did you say something?
Sounds just
What
like
was it, Linda? Nisu'in. Yeah. Nisu'in. Yes, again, it's the idea of carrying, elevating. Yes. So when you count somebody, it's interesting that counting is elevating. Yes. Do you remember we spoke about last week? When you count things, you're elevated, you're special because you have a certain chashivut. In Hebrew, we call it a certain chashivut, an importance. But here we find a very interesting thing. Now, you know, it is interesting that Gershon, of course, this is one of my favorite parshas because, for obvious reasons, Naso Esosh B'nai Gershon.
You're a lady, right?
Huh?
You're a lady.
Well, if you're a lady, but even if you're not a lady, you know, it's sorry. It just happens to be my name, but okay. The question is now, of course, Gershon, he was the firstborn of the what? I just said it.
Yeah, the
Levi.
Yeah.
No, Levi, not the Leviim. They were Leviim. Therefore, why were they called Leviim? Because the father was called Levi. Yeah, Levi. So there were three children: Gershon, Kahos, and Merari. Yeah, Gershon was the firstborn. Kahos was the second, and Merari was the thirdborn. Now, here's a question for you. We had actually in last week's Parsha that they started counting the Bnei Kahos were counted first. They were actually counted first. Now, where exactly, if you want to actually find that, here we go. If you go back to page 870, page 870, 871, Hashem spoke to Moshe saying, single out those from Kahos. It says single out. You see, it says single out, which means basically to count. Yeah. And so count them first, right? And then we count from 30 to 50. Okay. And here we have another counting. We're counting Bnei Gershon. Now, so the commentaries say, wait a minute. If Gershon is the firstborn, we should have started off with the counting of him. But we don't. We count on. Why do we do that? Why do we count Kahos first? You know why? The Rashi says because they were carrying the Aron. Wow. They carried all the Kalim in the temple. The Aron, the menorah, the Shulchan, the Levi, the Bnei Kahos carried the holy articles of the Mishkan. Now, so they take a precedence. But then you could ask a question. Okay, so then comes Gershon. Right, but Gershon's the first. Now, the thing is, but then why would we start off with the Parsha with Gershon? Maybe what Hashem should have done wouldn't have made sense to start off, and you want to emphasize that Kahos is important because they're carrying the Shulchan. So you know what? Start the Parsha with the Bnei, with the Bnei Kahos, and then carry on the Gershon, yeah, and then Merari. But here we're starting the portion with Gershon. I mean, I like it, right? For obvious reasons, but why not start with Merari, with Kahos? This is the question. Why do we start the Parsha? Do you understand? We could have said, you could have moved, you could have said, count the Bnei. But see, and here, look what it says, Gamheim. You should count them also. Also count them. So here we have to understand that there's a discussion in the Talmud about which is greater, studying or action.
Both.
But the Talmud did not say both. They decided which is greater. If you had to choose, I mean, we don't want to choose. Okay, you say study. What do you say? You say study. What do you say? Choice is studying or action, the deeds.
Actually, I think, well, I think it's really, to be honest with you, if you don't have Torah, then you can't have, how do you know to go about your actions? But the action is like really important. You know what I mean?
So are you agreeing with the other two?
Yeah, I think so.
You agree. What about the ladies here online? What do you think? What is more, you can unmute yourself and tell me which is more important, study or deed, action?
I think deed, because if you don't do something, nothing gets done.
Okay, good. What do you say, Linda? What about Linda? What is your, can you unmute yourself, Linda? Or shall I unmute you?
Hold on, like this.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes, so what do you say?
I think actions verify what you're studying, because if you study something and you put it into action, then you have theory and practice together, but
Okay.
one doesn't go without the other.
Okay, very good. What about Diana? Diane, what do you think is greater, study or deed? If you're there, I can't see you, so I don't know if you can hear me, because you're muted at the moment. But what do you think is greater, study or? So far, it's 3-2. 3 to the ladies here, 2 to the ladies online. So Diane, what's your? What do you think is action or study? Which is greater? Oh, we got someone else coming. All right, I'm not sure. Huh? Well, she's just coming into the overwhelm her. Yes, welcome to Mrs. Brindell. Welcome. Mrs. Brindell, we're just having a bit of a debate on which is greater, studying or action. Okay, this is what the Talmud also has a debate. I don't know if you have an opinion on that. Which is greater, study or action? So let me. Oh, that's funny. We've got Diana's come in twice now.
Okay, just continue.
You've got 2. So really, the Talmud comes to the conclusion like this. The Talmud says that study is greater, for it leads to action.
Yeah.
So
you don't really know the action unless you study what you're supposed to.
Exactly. So usually study leads to action. However, if study does not lead to action, then we have a bit of a problem, because then the study becomes just theoretical. And theoretical study is a waste of time. No, exactly. It's not enough. It's nowhere near enough. I told somebody this week, there was a sort of people used to say in the old days, in this shtetl, used to have a situation where there were these certain people with like maskilim, The Maskilim were people who were like part of the Enlightenment period. And they were actually they grew up sort of religious families, but then they sort of chucked it off. So what would happen is they could be sitting on the Shabbat, studying the Talmud, which was a very brilliant understanding, genius, and smoking a cigarette, in their homes on Shabbat. And they're really enjoying studying the Talmud, yeah, because it didn't lead to action, you see. And that, of course, the exact opposite. So Kahos represents Torah study. Gershon actually represents action,
Yeah.
deeds.
Oh, okay.
And that's
What's that
why
concept?
they come to
You
us.
did tapestries.
They carried the tapestries, correct. They carried all the curtains, all the screens, all the tapestries, all the coverings in the Beis
You
HaMikdash.
could say the same with us because the whole thing was physical.
It's not about physical.
It's
not
the
about physical.
content of what you're
No. I mean, it's because the truth is, mystically speaking, the coverings, yes, they represent a mystical aspect called makif, which is the surrounding light. Surrounding light. That's a good light. That is connected to mitzvahs.
Right.
The Torah study is connected to Torah study itself. So you see, because Gershon was connected with those mitzvahs, that's why we started off, because we want to make sure that the Torah study is put into action. And that's why we said Naso and Gershon, because they represent the idea of putting the study into practice, which is really what it's all about. Is that clear? I hope that is clear. So really the debate is such a debate, it's not such an argument, because the only purpose of studying is in order that you should be able to be a better person. Okay. Now, I'd like to just continue by pointing out the next thing, which let me just see if I can find. I'm trying to find the. Let me just 5. Is it just 5? Oh, I think it's next year. The name of Rory. Let me just a second. Let's see. I'm looking for the verse that says the name of Rory. Here we go. It's in Shani. It's actually the bottom of the page, 876, 877. The name of Rory, the Mishpah song. Now, you should count them as well, the name of Rory. But funny, have you noticed something different about them? The name of Rory. There's something different about the children of Merari.
Where's the passage?
Verse 29.
Oh, so this page, this one.
Well, it's the bottom of this page, and yeah. What can you see there? You might not actually figure it out, but the Bnei Merari do not have the extent of Naso Esrosh. They don't have the idea of Nasias Rosh. We said that Nasias Rosh is counting, right? The counting here does not appear. What's happened to Bnei Merari? They don't seem to. It just says, "Oh yeah, count them." Tifko. Do you see? It says on verse 879, count them, right? Just count them. But it doesn't have the more special term, Nasos Rosh. Single them out by counting them. Why not? Why did Bnei Merari? They're also the sons of Levi. Why shouldn't they get this Nasos Rosh? We got Merari. Sorry, we got Kahos, Gershon. Get their heads lifted up. Not Merari. What did they do wrong? They carried only the supporting of the and therefore that's not important. They carried the beams to house the whole Mishkan, all the beams, right? So in other words, if you don't have the beams, then you can't put the coverings. If you don't have the coverings, then you don't have a Mishkan, and you can't put the Kalim anywhere. So they're all crucially important, really. Yeah. But here's another beautiful idea here. When we come to serve Hashem, there's two parts of the way we serve Hashem. One part is when we give of ourselves, our own abilities, our own what we call kishronos. Yes, kishron means ability. Kishron, qualities. Yes, everybody serves Hashem in her own way, with her own abilities.
Yeah.
Yeah? That's what Hashem wants. But then you have a sort of a generic idea that it's not really about your abilities, it's that you're going to give yourself over to Hashem. Whatever Hashem wants you to do, you're going to do it. What's needed for you is now, is this, is this, is this. That we call Kabbalah. Yes? Or in Ashkenaz, a Kabbalah oil. Right? Kabbalah oil you take upon yourself, it's a sort of, you're just giving yourself over. You're just giving, Naso and Ishma, you're just giving yourself over to Hashem. Right? Now, when we talk about Bnei Kahos and Bnei Gershon, they were involved in physically carrying these things. And Bnei Merari, in other words, they represented individual aspects. Like you said, there are kalim, there are vessels, a shulchan, a menorah, a table, the oron, the wash basin, each individual sort of thing. And then you had the curtains, different things for different parts of the Mishkan. And then you had the beams. They represent the idea of Kabbalah's whole. They represent the idea of taking upon yourself the yoke of heaven without, you just sort of submission to Hashem. Now for that, we don't need to emphasize that you're such a special person, you need to be lifted up, your head needs to be lifted up and count. You know, you don't need the kavod. You don't need the glory. You don't need that aspect. And therefore, it just says, B'nai Merari. It says, okay, you do your job and finished. So they didn't need, some people, they don't like kavod. They don't need glory. They don't need the name. They don't need rights.
How can you have these kind of explanations for each one of these groups when each one of these groups had a bunch of individuals with all different kinds of personalities? I mean, were they all like conditioned just to be like trolls on like one side? You know what I mean?
No, yeah.
Did they have some kind of Rabbi that conditioned them to be like these Kabbalah soulniks,
I
and
get
then
the question.
the other ones were like more.
No. It's not describing who the people were. It's not
It's like
describing
a whole
that. We're not.
mentality.
Yeah, no. It's. There's so much in Judaism, and so much in Torah that is a metaphor. Do you know what a metaphor? Yeah. It's teaching us something about something else. Yes? So we're not talking about the kind of people who were the Bnei Kahos or Bnei Gershon or Bnei Merari. We're not saying that all the people in Bnei Merari, every single one of them was just a Kabbalah song.
Yeah.
Right?
No, it didn't happen.
Maybe they were. I don't know. Right? It's not so much about who they were. It's about what they symbolize. You understand? Because we're talking about the fact that Bnei Merari did not have their heads lifted up. Now, it could be, the fact is that they were it was a bit more tougher work in a sense, although they weren't carrying anything, but they were loading everything. They were loading everything onto the wagons. And, they were, had the sort of, so they were carrying loads of but they were put, it was like, you have movers. But, there's different kinds of movers, don't you? Sometimes you have the guys who are, they come in and they pack. And then you have the guys who sort of pack them onto the lorry, And it's a little bit, it's a different ballgame. Hello?
That's okay.
Okay. So, so all there is a certain symbolism here. The symbolism of Bnei Merari is that they have Kabbalah, and therefore we don't need to give them any. It's a symbolism of all of us, and it's a symbolism that is relevant to all of us, because part of us wants to have that. If you like, what should I say? The distinguishing. We're highlighting our personal qualities that we're giving over to Hashem. We highlight that. Oh, he's a great singer. He's a great chazan. He's a great scholar. He plays beautiful music. Somebody does. They maybe painting. They do painting. There are all sorts of qualities. People build the Beis Hamikdash. There are incredible qualities. How do they make them? Right? And then you have the idea a person is like, whatever you want me to do. I'm not going to, bittul. Exactly. Bittul. Very good. Self-abnegation. I have a feeling that the word abnegation is a French word. Am I right? Abnegation, there you are. It sounded like it, right?
Yeah.
So this is sort of, and it comes, this is the idea of Kabbalah, right? This is the idea of Bnei Merari, that we all have to have the idea of Kabbalah. So that's why it doesn't talk about raising their heads up and giving them this and giving them, make them special. It's like some people that don't care. I had an interesting story with with our son here, Yosef. So Yosef, he gave out in shul, he gave out a booklet. And the booklet was basically a commentary. They'd taken certain verses, Sikhs talks of the Rabbi, on the last laws of the Rambam, which deal about the laws and these about Mashiach. Yes? The last two chapters of the Rambam speak about Mashiach. And these, they made a booklet, 15, 20 pages, of these laws with commentaries with Sikhs from the Rabbi. And it was a very nice translation, very good translation. Yes? So I thought to myself, oh, they've taken this translation from one of the many publications. And we've got Sikhs in English, you've got Tugler, you've got Taugi, you've got lots of people who make nice translations. And they took them, right? But yes. And I said to my son, I said it's funny that in the introduction you didn't give a credit to who did it. You know, you should give a credit and say thank you. Yeah, thank you for this great introduction. Sikhs in English or the Rambam La'am or whatever it was. So he said to me, he said, I don't know. He said, but I think it was just the Bocher who did it, a student who did this translation. I said, no, it can't be. It's too good. It's too, you know. so he says to me, so he went away and he made a few phone calls and he came out and says, yes, it was a student called Kramer.
Oh,
A student called Kramer, right? And I thought it was amazing. I said, but shouldn't his name be mentioned? The guy worked hard, you know, he translated these Sikhs. And you're making a nice production and say translation by, you know, Mendel Kramer or whatever. And you exactly, I'm guessing. Or Yossi or Zalman, you know. So no, but he said, no, he doesn't care, he doesn't need it, he doesn't want it. I said, yeah, maybe he hasn't gotten to the age yet where, you know, kavod, you get a bit older, you know, people want kavod. Sometimes they kavod is more important than money. You know, kavod is like the most important thing.
What was the conclusion?
They say there was a famous story, you know, there was a famous Hasidic Madchen, he was a joker. His name was Rab Mendel, or Shmuel Munkus. Reb Shmuel Munkus, you ever heard of him? Reb Shmuel Munkus.
Bonkers.
Not bonkers. Well, he wasn't bonkers. He was a very clever guy. Shmuel Munkus. He was a genius, but he used to have a lot of great sense of humor, fantastic sense of humor. So, yeah, and he used to make the Rebbe, the Alter Rebbe, first Chabad Rebbe, used to make him laugh. He would tell him jokes and laugh. You know, they say once when he came to the basic Medrash, they say he had hung himself up outside on like a lamp, you know, the light that sticks out over the front door. So he's hanging down just before the Rabbi Shneur came in, Ladi. And so he looked up and he said, what are you doing up there? So he said, I know, he says, what happens is, you know, if you have a place where you make shoes, you know, a cobbler, a shoemaker, you have out on top of it, you have a big shoe sign, you know, because you ever been to Camden Town? You ever been to Camden Town? Right? Or if you have a blacksmith, you have a horseshoe. Yeah. It says, because you make those things, you make shoes, you make this. So you, Rebbe, what do? You make chassidim. So I thought I should have a chassid hanging up outside the door. That's why I was hanging. The Rebbe laughed. It was very funny.
It's very good.
Yeah, no, he's making him laugh.
Really good video.
So here, what happened was he was in a certain shul. It's Reb Shimon Munkers. And he saw that there were a lot of rabbanim, big rabbis. And he saw that they were, sometimes rabbis have a sense of, importance, you know, self-importance. And he looked, he was all quite amused, right, at each one of these rabbanim. Anyway, so he said, this was Simchas Torah, yes? So after Hakofa, this Reb Shmuel, he went up to the bima and he clapped and he said, the next Hakofa is for the most humble Rov in the shul. Who is the most humble Rov will get to hold the next Sefer Torah for the next Hakofa.
Right.
And all the Rabbonim, they all rushed towards it. So, they all wanted to cover of being the most humble person. So here's the idea, B'nai Merari, I just do, I don't care, I don't need the cover, I don't need this and that. That's why we don't count, we don't say lifting up the hand. It represents just a bittul, as you said, a self-abnegation. Right? No, we know what he did. Just say he carried all the. Well, he put everything on the lorries. He put them on the trucks,
It says
on the moving trucks.
beams, supporting rods, pillars, sockets.
All the pillars and the sockets.
Right here.
Oh.
That was the B'nai Merari. Okay, so it's interesting because Merari comes with moror, maybe. Merari, like bitter,
Really?
like bitter. Yeah, I'm sure there's a certain message there because when does a person feel humble? When they are, when you feel happy, when they feel sort of unhappy with themselves. It's a lot of people, like this story with the Rabbonim. Yeah, it's not Rabbonim feel very, very happy with themselves. I'm a scholar, this, that, I'm the other, yama, this, right? So you feel quite happy with yourself, right? And it makes you. But a person who is bitter, he's unhappy, he's dissatisfied, he's not doing enough, he's not religious enough. There's always room for more. He did this Avera, he did that sin. He's bitter at himself. He's up to. You know what I'm saying? That is actually a very healthy way to be, not to be too carried away with what you, how pompous, how great you think you are. Yeah. So that's B'nai Merari, and that was actually a very not a bad example. But that's again, it's a metaphor.
Yeah.
For all of us. Okay. Right. Now let's move on a little bit. The pasuk in Hey Zion. Hey Zion. So I'll tell you exactly where that is. On page 882, 883. His value is Hafaz. Yeah. Now, this is a very interesting verse that basically discusses that when a person ever does something wrong in Judaism, what are we supposed to do? We're supposed to do tshuva. Right. What is tshuva? What is tshuva? The first thing is vidui, exactly. Recognize that you did something wrong, and not just recognize it. Sometimes you can recognize it mentally, but you don't say anything about it. That's right. Verbalize it. Vidui, yes. Now, I know there are other certain religions that make a big deal about confession. Yes, but they confess. So first of all, they confess to other people, right? It thinks you're supposed to confess to Hashem, right? Okay. But the other thing is that some people confession is like the beginning of the truth. Some people think you confess and then just carry on doing whatever you like. That is what many other religions believe, right? Now here it says in verse 7, okay, so they should confess on the sins they committed. Now, on another verse, it's not based on this verse, but it's just a discussion about doing sins in general. There is a discussion and a debate about whether you need to do vidui, in other words, real tshuva, if you are outside Eretz Israel, if you're part of in the diaspora. Should you do tshuva if you are outside of Israel? Now you might ask a question. What's the question? What's the question? Of course you got to do tshuva.
No, I think your question is tshuva for not being in Israel.
No,
No, you don't mean that.
no, for sinning. No, for sinning in general. For sinning. Why would you think the Chutz La'aretz, outside of Israel, you don't do tshuva? You don't need to do tshuva. Yeah, do what you like. Or if you actually want to do tshuva, you have to come back to Eretz Yisrael, right, and do tshuva there, because you can't do tshuva Chutz La'aretz.
Well, you couldn't.
What's
you
the-
could bring a guilt offering, but there's no offerings. So the question. I thought you
So now there is only tshuva.
Right.
Okay, so that makes the question bigger. Why would you think in Chutz La'aretz you don't do any tshuva?
Well, we wouldn't think that. We would think that.
No, but there is a debate because actually there is a verse in the Torah. It's not actually this verse, but it's another verse where there's an extra word. Yes,
Yeah.
there's an extra word, and it says from the extra word we learn out that you should also do it in Chutz La'aretz. That you can also do vidui and tshuva in Chutz La'aretz. And without that extra word, we would not know necessarily that you do that. Yeah, that is that is.
Wonder why he's looking
No, I'm looking there because I'm looking to see if I can see the book from which I could show you. Unless you just want to take it for granted, you just accept what I'm saying.
We accept what you
We'll
say.
have Kabbalah, so
You'll have Kabbalah, so very good. So you'll just take. There is a debate in the Midrash discusses. Does a person need to do vidui Chutz La'aretz? And the extra word that is used is saying yes, even in Chutz La'aretz you need to do vidui and tshuva. Now, question is, let's understand the discussion because it seems to me,
Okay.
and probably to everybody here, yes, obviously, so we call it in England a no-brainer, right? So, right, you have to tshuva. So here, it's a very interesting idea, very concept of what tshuva is about. You might think, when we were living in Eretz Yisrael, it doesn't just mean you're in Israel, modern day Israel, or you're in England. It doesn't mean, it's not talking about if you're in Israel, then you do tshuva is not. It means we're talking about a time when the Jewish people as a whole are living in Eretz Yisrael with the temple, where they are living in a normal situation, where they're serving Hashem, they have the temple, and everything is what we say in English, hunky-dory. You heard that expression? Hunky-dory. I don't know what the equivalent in French is, but everything is bienvenue, not bienvenue. Not bien- everything is super class. Everything is très class, super, fantastic, magnifique. It is fantastic, right? So if you're living in Israel, in the land of Israel, and there's a temple and everything, so then if somebody does something wrong, then they have the mitzvah to do tshuva, they have to confess, and they have to, and this they will do tshuva because they feel this in their heart. Now, when the Jewish people have been sent out of Eretz Yisrael, they're in Galut. We call it Galut, or the diaspora. They've been sent out. So what is the usual standard? I mean, Baruch Hashem, now we live in a time when we live so affluently compared to for the last thousands of years in Galut, yes? I mean, the whole world is living affluent, yeah, compared to, yes? I mean, okay, there's inflation. And the price of gas is going through the ceiling, okay? But still, we still live in nice houses, Baruch Hashem, and we have fridges and electricity, running water, air conditioning, central heating, wall-to-wall carpeting. It goes on and on and on and on. Yeah, so everybody's living in it, right? But generally speaking, in the old times, it was not like that. Things are always difficult living in Galut. It was terrible, hard, and you had yisurim and afflictions and persecution and disease and famine. Oh, yisurim, terrible, difficult things. So a person may think that if he's done something wrong, Averos, things are happening, he's going to do tshuva. But you know why he's going to do tshuva? He's only going to do tshuva because he wants to avoid the terrible afflictions of exile. So in other words, he's not doing tshuva because he really feels that's the right thing to do.
It's from fear, no?
It's from fear. It's from being scared of the consequences. And he wants to avoid the consequences. He's scared of the consequences, so he wants to try and avoid them. So therefore, that's why he's doing it. That's why he's doing tshuva. So you might think, we don't need that kind of tshuva. You're going to do tshuva. Do a serious tshuva. Do a normal tshuva. Do a tshuva because you feel it's really, you've done something wrong. You made a mistake. You want to fix it up. You want to make it up. You love Hashem. You properly regret it, yeah? Not because you're worried that you're going to get a clap, you're worried you're going to lose this, you're worried this problem, that problem, this problem, yeah? That's what you might think. But at least now we understand the question. So therefore the Torah comes along and says you, no. That even in Chutz La'aretz, even when things are tough, as you, Mrs. Safran rightly said, better than nothing. Better than nothing. It's better to do tshuva, even if it's not the most sincere tshuva. And even if it's because of something negative that you're scared is going to happen to you, it's still better to do that.
It reminds me when Rabbi Schusterman, Yosef Schusterman used to do parenting classes in Los Angeles. So one of the questions I asked him is, when your kids, which my kids have done, when you tell them that they've done something wrong, and they say, okay, sorry. You know how they do that? Sorry, and it makes you even more upset.
Yeah.
But he says that still is a form of apology and just, you know what I mean?
Really?
Let it go.
That's even worse. Yeah. I mean, the truth is, people could, at least in this first, interpret this idea of saying sorry. They do mean it. They don't necessarily have the right motivation.
No, it's the
but
lower,
they're trying.
lower
When you say
level.
sorry, they don't even mean it. It's like
No, but it's a
you're
little-
just
it's
saying a word.
It's a little kid needing practice.
Yeah. Get off my back, So Rabbi Schusterman is even going one step further. See, just to say the word is already something. Because if
Practice these two. sincerely.
yes, I think the idea is that once you start,
Ugh.
starting to do tshuva is actually the hardest thing. Starting. I mean, it starts in your mind, right? But to actually start the process is the most difficult. Once you start moving already, it gets a bit easier. It's like anything else, yeah? Once you're moving already, anybody drive here? You drive. You drive? You don't drive. Anybody drive? You ladies, I don't know if you know much about cars.
Linda drives.
What is the most,
I don't know
gears?
if it
There are
drives.
4 gears. 4 gears. Yes. Which is, there are 4 gears in it. Oh, very good. There are 4. No consequences. There are 4 gears in a car. What is the most powerful gear in a car?
Drive.
No, there are 4 gears in
Brake.
drive.
Brake.
No, in drive.
Oh,
Brake is not a gear.
The fourth one.
Actually, you might want to
Mine
say
just
reverse.
says D.
Actually, reverse. Funny enough, is the strongest gear. If you really want to know, reverse. But forget about reverse because you're changing direction. Okay, fine. But what is the third? What is the 1, 2, 3, or 4?
4.
4. We got 2 votes for 4. Linda, you also say 4? You also say 4. Anybody else who drives? Any other views? Actually, you're wrong. You're all wrong. 4 is the gear that you do it the fastest. But that's because you're already moving already. Once you're moving quite fast, you stitch into 4. The first gear is the most powerful. Why? Because it starts you going from 0 to motion. Then you got second gear. Oh, second gear, I'm moving already. I'm moving. So then it moves a bit faster. 4 is nothing. 4 is like, when you're really moving very fast, and then you go into 4th gear, it's a machaya. It's just like, when you go up, when a plane when a rocket takes off. Remember, watch the Apollo. Remember the Apollo moon rockets, and the Naso ones. They have these massive rockets, right, with the millions of tons of fire coming out of the thing, right? When we need all this power is just to get off the Earth. Once the thing's up there, you don't need anything. You've got a tiny little rocket at the back. Every so often it goes boom. It gives you a little push for 5-10 seconds, and it gives you a push, right? But to get everything off the ground, that is the hardest thing because you're fighting gravity right at the beginning. So to do tshuva, actually, once to start to do tshuva is actually the most difficult in a way because you're starting. It says kol haschalot kashot. All difficulties, all beginnings are hard because you're fighting gravity. Yeah. So the same thing here. The Torah says, you want to start. Once you've started, you make a confession. You're already starting, and then you're going to move forward. So that is always a good idea. Okay. Right. Now, if you look on page 883. Whole Truma, the Chol kodesh b'nei Yisrael asher krivu lakohen lo yihi. All truma, and he's going to say, every offering from all the children of the Israel's holy first fruits. Can you see us in brackets first fruits? Brought to the priest will belong to the priest. Yeah? Now you may say, well, obviously, if you're going to bring it to the priest, it's going to have the priest is going to belong to, and truma, first of all, the truma itself normally does not mean the first fruits, bikurim, right? Does anybody know what Shavuos is also called?
It's like the choicest.
Haga bikurim. You just have, yeah. Sorry?
I mean, the choicest.
Bikurim means yes. Yes,
Choicest.
bikurim is the first fruit.
The
Well, no, it's not
choicest.
choice, it's the first.
It's the word
Like
bachor.
Bachor, it's like
Yeah.
the firstborn.
But
The firstborn.
But did you just say it's not necessarily the? You said it's.
No, it
is
goes
the
to the
first.
Kohen.
No, so yeah.
No,
okay.
so I'm saying you might think, well, it's obviously we're going to bring it to.
It's for the Kohen.
But that's the very interesting thing, because the Torah says, in fact, Rashi says on this point, on this verse, right? I'll just explain. I'll just mention it to you, that he says that when it comes to the bikurim, we read elsewhere that you're supposed to bring the bikurim to the temple, to the Mishkan. Welcome to Denise Kienbaum. We're supposed to bring the bikurim to the temple, but what do you do once it's there? What do you do with it? Who eats it? Who eats it?
The Kohen.
Oh, so this verse tells you you don't eat it. You got to give it to the Kohen. Give it to the Kohen.
What about the Levi?
No, bikurim are not for the Levi.
Only
Sorry.
the Cohen.
Only the Kohen. Okay, and that's what it says. This verse is the proof that it goes to the Kohen.
Her husband's the lady.
Oh, I see. Because you're a Levi, right? You want to know what's going to be the Levi. All right. So we have to talk about
We'll
your
send you a fruit
that another
basket.
time. Yeah. There was an interesting. We had somebody here in Yontif from South Africa, and they said they had a custom in South Africa where all people used to bring their fruits. Or they bring their kids and they make fruit baskets, and they bring them to shul and plonk them next to the Aron Kodesh.
Then it,
And
and then
they
it
would
goes-
walk for miles sometimes.
Then it goes to charity.
They said it went to charity?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, it
Not
goes to
for the
charity because
Cohens,
I was
it's
here
not
after.
choice, but,
So here's the interesting thing. Why is it then that there's two stages really in this Bikurim? One is bring to the Beis Hamikdash, and the other then you give it to the Kohen. Why do you have to have two separate stages? Just give it to the Kohen. Just give it to the Kohen. Well, what do you do to get where? Why? You don't have a Kohen next door? You can give it. Remember, you give Truma. Truma, you can give to a local Kohen. Yeah? Why do you have to bring it to the Beis Hamikdash to give it to the Kohen? The Kohen, just the Kohen who lives there in the Beis Hamikdash. Those Kohanim, what's wrong with the other Kohen? Yeah, that's the question. Yeah. So what?
It gets shared out more equally.
Sorry.
To get it shared out more equally.
Yeah, but only equally amongst the Kohanim at the Beis Hamikdash.
Not gonna do
What
it.
about all the other? I mean, what about all the other Kohanim all over the country? Why shouldn't they? Why shouldn't they get the Bikurim? Just like they get Truma, why can't they get Bikurim? That's the question.
Good question.
Thank you. It's not mine. It's the Rebbe's as usual. But the question is, so why does Hashem do that? And I think Hashem is trying to tell us, he said, Bikurim, again, so much of this class, and we mentioned this one, is metaphor, teachings, lessons. Now, Bikurim is a metaphor in general for tzedakah, charity. Yes. Now a person understands that you take your hard-earned money. A person says, they always quote me, hard-earned money. Oh, I give that. Well, that to give to, let's say, to give to the shul or to something holy is kind of, people kind of don't mind that. They like to give, for shul or to build something holy or a yeshiva or a mikveh or something, an institutional thing. People like to do that. They have no problem with that. But to give to another person, is a little bit of a Yetzer Hara there. It says, why does he deserve it more than me? I mean, I worked hard for this money. Okay, I labored. I tilled the earth. I cut the project. I cut the produce. I worked very hard. I worked very hard on this thing. It took me 6 months to get this crop, and now you want me to give it away to somebody who didn't do anything for it. Why should I have to give it to him? Why should I have to give it to him? Now, this is a bit of a general speaking with tzedakah, that a person sometimes feels. A person might want to give to an institution, but to give to individuals. Yeah, exactly. Like we were speaking before, that some people, they do like their name in headlights, and some people they don't. They want to be humble. They don't want to tell anybody. Nowadays, they say it's a mitzvah to publicize that you do a mitzvah.
Right.
Because other people will be encouraged to do the mitzvah too.
Ah.
They see you doing a mitzvah, other people say, oh, he did, she did, oh, maybe I'll do that too. You see? Now, in previous times, everybody was doing mitzvahs all the time, right? So, okay, to be humble is okay, it's fine, Nowadays, I think it's even better that people should know, not because you're showing off, just to encourage people, you understand? To encourage people to do a mitzvah is also good. I mean, you encourage the best through your own example. Okay, so back to the tzedakah issue here. How is a person to overcome the feeling that this guy does not really deserve it? Well, first and foremost, you have to understand, when we give tzedakah, we have to realize that whatever money we make, yes, some of it does not belong to us. Okay, we've said this on several occasions. 10% doesn't. You have to look at, if a person earns £100, yeah, then he should look at it that £10 does not belong to him. £10 does not belong to him. It belongs to tzedakah. You, however, he has the ability to distribute the money. He has the ability to distribute the money. Very nice. Okay, good. So that's a very good start. First of all, realizing that the money doesn't. Second of all, the Torah says, look, recognizes there's a person has this idea, this problem against the person. So therefore, he says, first of all, bring it to the base of Hamikdash. Bring the money to the base of Hamikdash. Bring the bikurim to the base of Hamikdash. Then you will feel already you're giving something holy, something special, the base of Hamikdash. When you're there, then already you feel good about that. Then you can give it over to the person, because you've already gotten used to the idea of giving to something. That's why it's done in 2 stages, in order to make it easier for the person giving, that he should be able to give to the Kohen himself, because he might be a bit reluctant to give. You understand? That is why why they would suggest this in 2 stages.
You find that reaction with door-to-door collecting. People say, go to work when they go to work.
Really?
Yeah.
Who says that? I've never. Have you heard somebody say that?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
I didn't hear what she said.
She said that some people, when they're collecting from door to door, the response they get from the person at the door is, go out and earn a living, or go and get yourself a job. I never heard anybody say that. I would never. I mean, I don't think I said that. Huh?
Makes sense, because you don't know who they are.
Yeah, but you don't know. You don't know why they're collecting. Obviously, if people don't enjoy collecting, they don't want to collect. It's very painful. It's embarrassing. I mean, like, if you had a job, you wouldn't be collecting. Obviously, I don't know. But you're saying you're saying you've actually experienced that.
Come to Shiur, and she often says, "Don't go to work. Don't give me your money. Don't be crazy." Like I don't understand. And I found also that when you go collecting, you used to collect for half process and that. There's a lot of pride in it, because if your kid needs, that's what I remember when my daughter had divorced, and that, I didn't go collecting. Left it to everyone else to try and help her, because go for yourself, that's much harder. So when people go collecting, it means that they really need it. Or there's some psychological wrong, they'd rather collect them.
Yeah, it is true. Anyway, so these are some of the challenges of tzedakah, and the Torah says, so you know what, give it to, come to the base of Mikdash, then you feel good about your giving something, then you can give it to the Kohen. Then you'll feel more inclined. You'll feel, it won't be as painful for you to give it away to the Kohen. Okay. Yeah. Now, let's just finish off. I'm wondering whether to talk. Okay, you know what? Let's talk about, since this is a women's year, okay, we could talk about this idea of the sota, yes, which is in this week's Parsha, which is a pretty interesting, sort of an interesting, how should we say, portion in the Torah that deals with a woman who has been suspected of being, unfaithful. Okay, why was she considered possibly? We don't know. There's a suspicion of being unfaithful. The reason is because her husband, for whatever reason, told her he was a bit jealous of something or somebody, and he told her not to be alone with with a certain person, right? And she went ahead and she was alone with the person. So therefore, there's a bit of a suspicion, I guess, in the eyes of the husband, about his wife. So then we have the whole idea that there's a whole process where she drinks this water, etc., which clarifies to see if she was unfaithful or not. Yes. So again, this is actually a metaphor, an overall metaphor. When we talk about somebody who is suspected of being unfaithful, there is an actual metaphor here with regard to the whole Jewish people in general. We are Hashem's wife. Hashem is our husband. Okay? And whenever we sin, yes, we're basically going off the way. And Hashem says to us that we're not supposed to be alone with another man. What does that mean metaphorically, to be alone with another man? Idols, exactly. Idols. We're not allowed to worship idols. That is the idea. And Hashem says, don't be alone with them. Don't start worshiping, right? You're just with me. I'm your husband. It's just you and me, right? So here's a question for you. How could you be alone with an idol? How could you be secluded in this world from Hashem? Hashem is everywhere. Everybody knows the song. Hashem is here, Hashem is there, Hashem is everywhere. So if Hashem is everywhere, how can you be secluded with an idol, so to speak, that Hashem is not there?
It's in your brain, inside.
It's in your brain. And
Yeah,
Hashem's not in your brain?
No, your mind is.
In your mind. In your mind, you're saying you don't think Hashem is there.
Yeah.
No, I'm saying Hashem is there, but the people who go off the derech get the wrong ideas in their head, in their mind, and they can shut Hashem out.
They can shut Hashem out. Well, actually, no, you're quite warm here.
In their mind.
You're quite warm, really, because it's not so much about them. I mean, it is partly about them shutting God out. But you know why it is? You know what? There is a very specific sin that shuts Hashem out completely. It's called the sin of ga'ava, of arrogance.
Oh, yeah.
Of arrogance. A person who is a Baal Gaiva, somebody who is a really arrogant person, it says, Hashem says, actually it says in the Gemara Sota, which people in learning says, Ein ani v'hu yochol lichyos ba'olam. Him and I, we can't live in the same world. So that's a bit of a strange statement. What do you mean you can't live in the same world? So what?
Because she keeps away.
But
No,
it's talking about an ordinary person.
Yeah.
Who's a Baal Gaiva, who's an arrogant person.
Yeah.
Oh yes, because what?
Person of arrogance.
Yes.
It's all about me. So why she should put Hashem first?
Oh, so Hashem says, I can't live with him in the same world. So Hashem goes away.
Yeah.
Hashem literally, not literally.
It's not enough.
It's not literally. It's not enough room because he's like the whole world is like him, and he is this. So therefore, Hashem, so to speak, removes himself exactly, and that is part of the function of him shutting himself off from Hashem, because his arrogant pride allowed him to think that idols have some kind of importance. That is what it means. He secluded himself because of his arrogance.
Yeah, it seems like
People sin a lot because of their arrogance and depression, not so much because they're really convinced about it. There's usually other reasons why people sin. They want to, they want to make a point quite often.
Yeah, but when someone starts to go off, it seems like they spiral really quickly. It's almost like Hashem, like
Well,
It's true.
some people they follow different other ideas.
Well, obviously they're throwing other ideas, but the worst idea of all is to think that you are somebody, a big shot, and that, and therefore the solution for this arrogance is to have a special offering. The Sota woman should offer up a special meal offering, but it was not made of flour. It was made of barley. Barley. Why barley? What's the difference between barley and flour?
Thank you so much. She brought me barley.
Oh, barley. Oh, very good.
More lowly.
It's more lowly. Why is it more lowly? Because barley is not something.
Animal, they used to give it to the animal.
Exactly. It is an animal fodder. It is an animal fodder as opposed to wheat, which is a human fodder. Human food, not fodder. So barley is more of a fodder. But so when a person has the barley, in other words, if a person realizes he's like just a lowly kind of an animal, it reminds him who he is. That is the tickle. That is the rectification for his arrogance.
But why did you say the woman has to give the barley?
I'm sorry, hold on. I'm sorry, just 1 second. Yeah, sorry, could you say that again?
Did you say that the woman has to bring the barley?
Yes.
But she's not the one who did the wrong always.
Well, no, of course, if the man did something wrong, he's also going to get it. Don't worry, he also gets it, right? The one
But
who
if he
sin as
didn't
well.
do
But the
anything
woman,
wrong-
no, the woman here, the one, because if you want, because she did something that was, if you like, the reason that she gives, she did something somewhat animalistic, okay? Because she did something that was not modest. It was immodest. Her husband said, "Look, I'd rather you. Please don't be alone with this chap." And therefore, she did something immodest. So therefore, that is considered sort of, if you like, a bit animalistic, because
you drink the sota to prove whether you did or didn't.
not you, whether
the sota drinks
did.
the water.
Whether she did or she didn't. It's about
I
her.
know that. So
Sorry?
if the woman who's been accused drinks the water
It's
in
not
order.
She's
in
been
order to
suspected. She's
it's like-
suspected.
Yeah, but it's to prove whether she did or didn't.
Correct.
She could have made it up. So does she still have to bring a barley offering if she was innocent?
No, the barley offering is brought before she drinks the water. I believe that she brings the barley offering beforehand. That's a bit of an argy-bargy, but it's the very fact that she acted, immodestly in being alone with this man is problem. That's caused the whole problem, you see, and that's why she needs to drink the water. Yes, because we don't know. She's put herself in a doubtful status. Did she or didn't she? So therefore, we don't really know. So
Can she be accused of it without and have to go and drink the water if there was no witnesses?
Oh, well, listen, for that we have to go into the whole tractate. There's a whole tractate about this with many, many laws.
Yeah, for 7 weeks.
If there is a witness, the only witness is that she secluded herself with this man.
Yeah, that's
Of course you have to have witnesses.
If there's no witnesses, then he can't. Nothing happens.
I'm sorry?
The husband can't just accuse the wife if there's no witnesses.
Correct.
That
Correct.
makes
You have to have
sense.
witnesses. 100% you have to have witnesses.
Thank you.
Okay. I want to we're going to finish off now. We're running a little bit late. thank you for coming. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your company as usual. I hope you enjoyed this year. We have to apologize for the next couple of weeks. Mir Hashem, we will be away because we're going to New York for Miriam's chasna, Bez Hashem.
Mazel tov.
Thank you very much. So we will return. Well, in 3 weeks, I should be home in 3 weeks' time. In 3 weeks' time, hopefully, we should be back. No, it won't. It won't be the 3 weeks.
Not yet, no.
No, it's the end of times. It won't be 3 weeks. So, but we will. We'll keep you informed of what is and what is and what isn't, shall we say? So, but meanwhile, I wish you well, and Be'ezus Hashem, we will see you on our return.
Thank you.
Mazel tov, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Shkoyach.
Bye bye.
Come back safe and sound.
Amen. Thank you very much.